The team's abrupt crash out of the NBA playoffs has raised questions about Deandre Ayton's future with the Phoenix Suns, especially following his denied request for a big money max extension. Want to know more about Deandre's complicated future? Keep watching. Let's begin. Starting with Deandre Ayton's future with the Suns complicated. In the midst of questions over whether or not the Phoenix Suns have what it takes to bounce back after crashing out of the NBA playoffs, star Deandre Ayton's future with the team has become a lot more complicated. The team entered the finals this season, settling a 64-game franchise record to take the top seed in the NBA's Western Conference, before losing to the Mavericks in the conference semifinals Game 7. For a team that led the league in regular season wins, it was a major failure following a season full of promise. The game was terribly lopsided, something not properly appreciated in the 123-90 final score. Not only was the defeat on home court, but the game was also never even remotely competitive, one juncture seeing the Mavericks leading by a whopping 46 points. Now, as the team enters the offseason, their ability to contend for a championship hinges on the burning question of what will happen with the former #1 overall pick Deandre Ayton. Following the debacle, Ayton has become a restricted free agent. The new position doesn't restrict the Suns' ability to match any offer sheet he may sign, but adds a lot of layers to their relationship. A concerning fact considering their inability to agree on a deal prior to the 2021-22 season. Next, Ayton's contract extension was knocked back off last season. Right now, Ayton's future is the burning question for the Suns management. The player is eligible for a 5-year max extension worth around $240 million, but his demands for an extension were knocked back by the Suns last offseason. As reported by ESPN's NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski following the Phoenix's devastating defeat, Ayton does not feel valued by the organization. They were unable to come to an agreement on his rookie extension, while he saw many top players getting extensions. The player wants a max deal, and that's not something he's willing to move off. On top of that, the Suns appear to be at odds with the man they drafted with the #1 pick in 2018, if the team's loss against the Mavericks is anything to go by. The player had an average of 30 minutes per game in the playoffs, but played only 17 minutes in the loss, getting benched by Suns coach Monty Williams in the second half of the game. When Williams was asked about the limited playtime, the coach said it was internal, but American rapper Lil Wayne, who was present courtside at the game, told Fox Sports US that Monty was upset with Ayton, so much so that he claimed the player quit on them during the game. And now, Deandre not offered max contract due to issues off the court. According to former NBA three-point specialist JJ Redick, it's clear that the reason Ayton wasn't offered a max contract, despite his stellar performance, was due to issues off the court. In the specialist's own words, there's a reason they didn't max. Has nothing to do with playoff performance. He was good in the playoffs last year. The reason they didn't max him was that there are other questions about his attitude and character. Redick went on to suggest that the Suns would be better off this offseason trading Ayton for a wing player that can help stretch the floor and complement the Suns' 2 NBA All-Stars, Christopher Paul and Devin Booker, saying that Ayton was the one guy on the roster that they could facilitate a sign and trade with and potentially bring back a third player, a wing player that can get them buckets and guard. Although he finished by adding that the team just doesn't have that third option right now. Deandre had a slow start to his career, facing a 25-game suspension just a year after his debut in 2018 for violating the league's anti-drug policy. Still, the player recovered, becoming a key element in the Suns' run to the NBA Finals last season. While the player's future with the team is now uncertain, it's fortunate that most of the Suns' nucleus is still under contract for next season. This includes players like Paul, Booker, Johnson, Jay Crowder, and Mikal Bridges. Finally, former #1 overall pick likely to get a max contract somewhere. With his decision to move towards restricted free agency, star center Deandre Ayton is now officially up for grabs. There are multiple teams expected to pursue him, including the Portland Trail Blazers, Toronto Raptors, and Detroit Pistons. Other than these three, who have already shown a level of interest in the young player, the Indiana Pacers, Orlando Magic, and San Antonio Spurs can also open up a max-level slot on their roster to pursue Ayton. According to American sports columnist and reporter Adrian Wojnarowski, Ayton's going to get a max contract somewhere, whether that's in the Phoenix Suns or somewhere else. The player will have some more options, although ultimately the Suns can still match an offer out there and keep him if he signs an offer sheet with another team. And if the team decides not to extend Deandre on the long-term max contract, they could look into a possible sign-and-trade deal. Wojnarowski pointed this out, saying that looking at teams with cap space, Oklahoma City, San Antonio Spurs, and Portland could all create enough space to go out and sign Deandre. But a sign-and-trade is not out of the picture if the Phoenix Suns decide they want to get assets back for Ayton. The team doesn't want to match an offer sheet and either decide to pay him that max or allow Ayton to leave for nothing. There will be a lot of conversations around the league, but Deandre is bound to get a max contract somewhere in the marketplace. Next, in other news, Deandre Ayton's agent disappointed they didn't get max contract. As mentioned previously, former #1 overall pick Deandre Ayton chose restricted free agency after his team, the Phoenix Suns, refused to sign him a 5-year rookie-scale max extension contract before the 2021-22 season. Considering the circumstances, the player's agent Bill Duffy discussed the athletic big man's future on SiriusXM's NBA show during the NBA Draft Combine in Chicago. On the show, Duffy confirmed that they're disappointed as they wanted a max contract. He went on to praise Ayton and expressed his pride in the player, saying that he went out and was a soldier the whole year, playing well and improving his statistics. A lot of guys handle things differently, but the young player was very mature about it. Duffy finished up saying that things will work out for Deandre as he's a valuable player. There are other teams in the league, and since Ayton is a restricted free agent, they'll just have to wait and see how this process unfolds. And now, NBA frustrated with Mavs' violation of bench decorum rules. The Dallas Mavericks have managed to get fined for the same offense for the 3rd time in this season's NBA playoffs. A feat indeed. The offense? Violation of league rules regarding team bench decorum. The 3rd fine, worth $100,000, was announced following the Mav bench's actions against Golden State in the Western Conference Finals Game 2. A statement by NBA President of League Operations Byron Spruell declared that several players and a member of the coaching staff stood for an extended period in the Mavericks team bench area, moved away from the bench, and encroached upon the playing court during game action. This was observed on multiple occasions. The tone of that statement hardly reflects the league's frustration with the Mavericks, believing their conduct to impact player safety, competitiveness, and fan consideration. Not to mention, league rules state that players during a game must remain seated while the ball is in play, the only exception being reacting spontaneously or reporting to the scorer's table to check into the game. As for players not in the game, they may not remain standing during game action, with the bench players prohibited from distracting opponents using any unsportsmanlike means. This isn't to say that the league is against players standing after a big play, but it doesn't want its players standing for a majority of the game, especially if that affects the view of the fans behind them. So far, technical fouls have not been used as a deterrent, as such bench decorum issues are generally resolved after league intervention. The league doesn't plan to start using them during the conference finals. Lastly, JaVale McGee on charity softball game and Suns' future. In order to promote his 6th annual Water for Life charity softball game on June 22nd at the ballpark, American professional basketball player JaVale McGee was seen doing some batting practice at Chase Field, ahead of the Arizona Diamondbacks' tilt against the Los Angeles Dodgers. The night prior saw the Golden State Warriors win the Western Conference after defeating the Dallas Mavericks team that knocked McGee's Phoenix Suns straight out of the playoffs. But McGee kept his cool, explaining to Arizona Sports that he's the type of person who believes that whatever happens for a reason and is supposed to happen. The player admitted that he didn't want it to happen, and they definitely didn't show up the way they should have. But that's how things are, and the tide's been turned. That's a wrap for this video. What do you think about Deandre Ayton's future with the Suns? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.